In the backwoods of Appalachia, nestled beneath the rust-colored peaks of the Smoky Mountains, there is a forgotten village called Hollow Creek. Only the oldest folks remember it now, and they whisper its name like a prayer or a curse, depending on who's telling the story. They say the mist there never lifts, not even at noon when the sun is high. The trees lean in close, whispering secrets to each other in the wind. And down at the edge of the old, dried-up creek stands a crumbling cabin, blackened with time, crooked as a witch's smile. It belonged to a woman named Eliza Mae Calloway. Eliza Mae was the prettiest girl in Tennessee once. Folks said her eyes held storms and her voice could calm 'em. She married young to a man named Jude Calloway, a trapper with a wild heart and a crooked grin. They were the kind of couple that made you believe in stories, in soulmates and fate. They carved their home out of the wild, raised goats and bees, and danced under moonlight like no one was watching. But the mountain takes as much as it gives. And Hollow Creek, well, it gives less than most. One autumn, the hunting was bad, and the frost came early. Jude went out one morning with his rifle and never came back. Eliza searched for him for 3 weeks, day and night, through the hollers and ridges, calling his name into the wind until her voice broke and her skin split from cold. She found nothing, no tracks, no blood, no body, only his hat, hanging from a low branch over the creek, dripping wet and smelling of pine. She never left that cabin after that. They say Eliza Mae kept the fire going every night, whispering to it like she was telling secrets. They say she never cut her hair again, just let it grow long and wild, trailing behind her like shadows. And her bees, they stopped making honey, and the goats stopped giving milk. One spring night, years later, a group of drunk hunters passed by the old cabin. They laughed, shouted rude things about the widow of Hollow Creek, and dared each other to knock on her door. Only one did. His name was Billy Hatcher, and he was never seen again. The next morning, the others found his boots at the edge of the creek, filled with water. No footprints, no blood, just boots. They ran all the way back to town, white as ghosts. And that's when the stories started. Some say Eliza Mae went mad with grief and called upon old mountain spirits to bring Jude back. Others whisper she made a deal with something older, something that slithered through roots and drank moonlight. Folks claim to have seen her walking along the creek at dusk, her hair floating like smoke, humming a lullaby that makes dogs howl and babies cry. But here's where it gets strange. Every 20 years, to the day of Jude's disappearance, someone vanishes by that creek. Always alone. Always near sundown. And the cabin, it never rots. No matter how many seasons pass. The vines grow around it, but never over. The moss won't touch it. Trees bend away. Some brave or foolish folks try to visit it. Urban explorers, thrill seekers, skeptics. Most return spooked but unharmed. But some leave different. Eyes too wide, smiles too tight. And they never talk about what they saw. The last one to try was a podcaster from Chicago named Kendra Boone. She wanted to do a series on forgotten American folklore. She posted one episode. In it, you can hear her voice, calm at first, talking about Hollow Creek, about the legend of Eliza Mae. But then, around the 34-minute mark, her tone changes. She starts whispering, then laughing, then crying. And at the very end, right before the recording cuts out, you hear another voice. A man's voice. Liza, I'm home. No one's heard from Kendra Boone since. Her car was found parked along the old fire road that leads into Hollow Creek. The keys were still in the ignition. And her shoes, right at the edge of the creek. The sheriff called it a disappearance, same as the others. No signs of struggle. No footprints, no foul play. Just fog. Thick and heavy. The kind that swallows sound and bends light. Sheriff Doolin, a man with a stomach like a kettle drum and eyes as sharp as nails, never believed in stories. He'd served in the Gulf. Seen men blown apart and stitched back wrong. But even he wouldn't step foot past that creek line. "We don't go pokin' dead places," he said, spitting tobacco. "Ain't nothin' there we need to find." But one man didn't listen. Ezekiel Calloway, Jude's great-nephew. Zeke was a war vet too, but younger, angrier. He'd grown up on stories of Uncle Jude, the brave trapper who vanished, the lost Calloway legacy. Zeke had his mother's stubbornness and his father's fists. When Kendra Boone disappeared, something in him snapped. "She ain't the first. And she won't be the last," he muttered. "Not if I end it." So, one October morning, with the trees bleeding crimson and the birds long gone quiet, Zeke strapped on his boots, slung a rifle over his shoulder, and marched into the mist. No GPS. No phone. Just an old compass and a copy of Kendra Boone's audio file. He played it over and over as he hiked. At first, it was just wind and leaves. But around 34 minutes in, he heard it. That whisper. That laugh. That man's voice. "Liza, I'm home." He'd reached the cabin. And it was nothing like the stories. It wasn't crumbling. It wasn't crooked. It looked new. The wood glistened like fresh lacquer. The windows were clean. Candles burned in the windowsills. There was a smell in the air. Lilac and smoke, and a warmth like fresh bread. Zeke didn't knock. He pushed the door open, slow and cautious. Inside, time had stopped. Everything was perfectly preserved. Furniture, tablecloths. A pot of stew still simmering though no fire was lit. Dust hung in the air like lazy snow. And there, sitting by the fireplace in a rocking chair, was Eliza Mae only. She wasn't old. She was young. As young as she'd been the day Jude disappeared. Her skin smooth. Her hair long and dark, trailing over the floor. Her eyes, gray and wild, looked right through Zeke. "You look like him," she said softly. Zeke froze. "I'm Ezekiel. Jude's blood. I came to." "You shouldn't have." The door slammed shut behind him. The air turned sharp, thick with whispers. Zeke raised the rifle. But Eliza didn't move. She just stared at the fireplace, rocking gently. "They promised," she whispered. "They said if I stayed, if I waited, he'd come back. One night, just one night, every 20 years. Zeke stepped back. "Who promised?" The flames in the hearth flared. From the shadows above the mantel, something shifted. Something long. And not human. The whispers grew louder, not in English, not in anything he'd heard. Like trees creaking underwater. Zeke spun around, aiming at the shadows. Breathing hard. "What the hell is this?" Eliza's voice broke into a sob. "I gave them what they wanted, goats, bees, time, and then they asked for more. Just one more every time he came close. Just one more life, and they'd let me see him again." She looked up at Zeke now. And she smiled. "I think this time, they want you." Zeke fired. The sound cracked through the woods like lightning. And was swallowed whole. He ran. Through the door, down the porch, into the thicket, branches clawing at his face. Roots twisting around his boots. The mist was alive, wrapping around his legs, dragging. He could hear footsteps behind him. 2 sets. One slow and light, Eliza Mae's. And one heavy. Wet. Boots sloshing. "Liza." A voice called behind him. "Liza, I'm home." Zeke didn't stop. He reached the creek, now flowing fast, angry, swollen with black water, and leapt across. The moment his feet hit the other side, everything fell silent. He turned back. The cabin was gone. So was the mist. Only the sound of the creek trickling behind him. He collapsed, chest heaving, eyes wide. The rifle was gone. So was the compass. And on the ground beside him, neatly placed, side by side, were his boots. Zeke didn't sleep that night. He couldn't. Not after what he'd seen. He limped barefoot through the woods until he reached his truck. His skin was scratched raw, his clothes torn, and his hands shaking like they didn't belong to him. He didn't remember starting the engine. He didn't remember the drive down the mountain. All he remembered was Eliza's voice. "I think this time, they want you." He didn't go home. Instead, he checked into the old Drummond Motel by the highway. Room 6. Peeling wallpaper. Buzzing light. The kind of place where nightmares feel comfortable. He showered for an hour. Scrubbed his skin raw, trying to get the smell of lilac and smoke off him. It didn't work. At exactly 2:13 a.m., he heard it a knock on the door. Not a loud one. Just 3 soft taps. He froze in bed, heart hammering. Grabbed the motel Bible off the nightstand and held it like a weapon. Another knock. Point 3 again. Exactly the same. He forced himself to the peephole. There was no one there. But when he opened the door, his boots were outside, dry now, polished, with a dead bee inside the left one. Zeke didn't sleep after that. Not for days. Back in town, weird things started happening. Reverend Hartman's dog, a loyal hound named Moses, started howling every night at sundown, staring at the woods with eyes rolled back white. One night, Moses ran straight into the forest and never came back. All the honeybees in Mrs. Greeley's orchard died overnight. Their bodies formed a perfect spiral on her kitchen floor. Her windows were locked. 3 high school kids, filming a TikTok near the creek, went missing for 3 hours. When they were found, they were silent, eyes glazed, mouths filled with black water. One of them, Lacey, scratched something into the wall of her room that night. It read. He walks at dusk. She waits in the dark. The creek remembers. Zeke couldn't take it anymore. He went to the local library, digging into dusty records no one had touched in decades. That's when he found it. A yellowed newspaper article from 1901. 5 men drown in sudden creek flood. Cabin found empty. Widow Eliza Calloway presumed dead. But the date was wrong. Jude went missing in 1953. Another article. From 1921. Same cabin. Same name. Different victim. Then 1981. Then 2001. Every 20 years, someone disappeared. But here's the catch, in every report, Eliza Mae was always the same. Young. Beautiful. Ageless. Like a scratch on a record repeating forever. That night, Zeke returned to room 6 with the articles spread across the bed. The motel light flickered. Then died. Darkness. Cold. And then, a voice. You came back, Jude. He turned, slow as frozen molasses. And there she was, standing in the corner, drenched in shadows. Eliza Mae Calloway. Same eyes. Same storm. But this time, her skin was pale, translucent. Like candle wax stretched over bone. Her hair floated in the air, drifting like it was underwater. And behind her, something else moved. Zeke couldn't breathe. A shape leaned from the corner, tall and wrong. No eyes. No mouth. A head like a hornet's nest, humming, twitching. Limbs too long. Fingers dragging the floor. It spoke, but not in words, in feelings. Cold. Loss. Drowning. Sorrow. Zeke dropped the Bible. The pages flipped on their own. Until they stopped on one verse. And the waters prevailed upon the earth 150 days. The humming grew louder. The motel walls bled sap. Zeke turned to run. But the door was gone. Just a mirror now. And in the reflection, he wasn't Zeke anymore. He was Jude Calloway, wearing his old flannel, smiling crooked, and standing next to Eliza Mae. Outside the motel, no one heard anything. But in room 6, when the cleaning lady opened the door the next morning, there was no one inside. Just an open Bible, a wet boot, and a note scratched into the wall. She won't wait forever. 20 years later, the fog returned. It crept down the mountain like spilled milk. pooling in Hollow Creek as the sun disappeared. Children born long after Zeke's time had heard whispers of the widow, of the cabin, of the boots filled with water. Most laughed it off. Just folklore. Old tales meant to scare kids away from the woods. But deep in the heart of the forest, where the trees grow too close and the air smells like lilac and rot, the cabin still stood, untouched by time. Inside, Eliza Mae sat by the fire, humming softly. Across from her, a man smiled. Crookedly. His eyes were hollow now, dark as the creek. They didn't speak anymore. They just sat, forever waiting for the next soul to knock. And outside, at the edge of the water, two boots sat neatly on the bank, filled with water. The end. If you are new to our YouTube channel, please subscribe to our channel and turn the bell notification to be notified on our next video.